Celtic Twilight by W.B. Yeats. I don't remember any video that's taken so many tries as Kidnappers. But this is the 5th try. A little north of the town of Sligo, on the southern side of Ben Bulben, some hundreds of feet above the plain, is a small white square in the limestone. No mortal has ever touched it with his hand. No sheep or goat has ever browsed grass beside it. There is no more inaccessible place upon the earth, and few more encircled by awe to the deep considering. It is at the door of fairyland. In the middle of the night it swings open, and the unearthly troop rushes out. All night the gay rabble, joyful, sweep to and fro across the land, invisible to all, unless perhaps we're in some more than commonly gentle place, Drumcliff or Drumahair. The nightcap heads of fairy doctors may be thrust from their doors to see what mischief the gentry are doing. To their trained eyes and ears the fields are covered by red-hatted riders, and the air is full of shrill voices, a sound like whistling, as an ancient Scottish seer has recorded, and wholly different from the talk of angels who speak much in the throat, like the Irish. As Lily the astrologer has wisely said, if there be a newborn baby or a new-wed bride in the neighborhood, the nightcap doctors will peer with more than common care, for the unearthly troop do not always return empty-handed. Sometimes a new-wed bride or a newborn baby goes with them into their mountains. The door swings to behind, and the newborn or new-wed moves henceforth in the bloodless land of Faery, happy enough, but doomed to melt out at the last judgment like bright vapor, for the soul cannot live without sorrow. Through the door of white stone and the other doors of that land, where the Gebid tu an sonus ar pegin, you can buy joy for a penny. I don't know if that's Gaelic or Gallic, but that's my best attempt at pronouncing that at the time being. Have gone kings, queens, and princes. Your typical tarot card, your playing deck of cards kicked off the princesses. It's a shame. But so greatly has the power of Faery dwindled, but there are none but peasants in these sad chronicles of time. Sorry about the yard. Remember that painting I did, I think? Yeah, I gave it to my father. The white door with the ogams for the year on it. This is the myth sort of being talked about. Somewhere about the beginning of last century appeared in the western corner of Market Street, Sligo, where the butcher's shop is now. Not a place, as in Keats' Lamia, but an apothecary shop ruled over by a certain unaccountable Dr. Opendon. Where he came from, none ever knows. There was in Sligo in those days a woman, Ormsby by name, whose husband had fallen mysteriously sick. The doctors could make nothing of him. Nothing seemed wrong with him. Yet weaker he grew. Away went the wife to Dr. Opendon. She was shown into the shop parlor. A black cat was sitting straight up before the fire. She had just time to see that the sideboard was covered with fruit, and to say to herself, fruit must be wholesome when the doctor has so much. before Dr. Uppenden came in. He was dressed all in black, the same as the cat, and his wife walked behind him, dressed in black likewise. She gave him a guinea, and got a little bottle in return. Her husband recovered that time. Meanwhile, the black doctor cured many people, but one day a rich peasant died, and cat, wife, and doctor all vanished the night after. In a year the man Ormsby fell sick once more. Now he was a good-looking man, and his wife felt sure the gentry were coveting him. She went and called on the fiery doctor at Cairnsfoot. As soon as he had heard her tale, he went behind the back door and began muttering, making spells. Her husband got well this time also, but after a while he sickened again, the fatal third time, and away she went once more to Cairnsfoot, and out went the fiery doctor behind his back door and began muttering. But soon he came in and told her it was no use. Her husband would die, and sure enough the man died, and ever after, when she spoke of him, Miss Ormsby shook her head, saying she knew well where he was, and it wasn't in heaven or hell or purgatory either. She probably believed that a log of wood was left behind in his place, but so bewitched that it seemed like the dead body of her husband. She is dead now herself, but many still living remember her. She was, I believe, for a time a servant, or else a kind of pensioner of some relations of my own. And okay, I thought that air conditioner was off, but now when we are dealing with the exorcists, or incantors, chantors, whatever, but the people who do incantations, we got to look at, okay, what are they doing with it, and various other things. Are the beliefs that you share, are beliefs that you want to share? Are they doing this because it's the best thing, or are they doing this trying to make a business out of it, like instead of teaching reliance on God or whatever people are going to rely on to build their spiritual protection? Sometimes those who are carried off are allowed, after many years, 7 usually, a final glimpse of their friends. Many years ago, a woman vanished suddenly from a Sligo garden where she was walking with her husband. When her son, who was then a baby, had grown up, he received word in some way, not handed down, that his mother was glamoured by fairies, imprisoned for a time in the house in Glasgow, and longing to see him. Glasgow, in those days of sailing ships, seemed to the peasant mind almost over the edge of the known world, yet he, being a dutiful son, started away. For a long time he walked the streets of Glasgow. At last, down in a cellar, he saw his mother working. She was happy, she said, and had the best of good eating. And would he not eat? And therewith laid all kinds of food on the table. But he, knowing well that she was trying to cast on him the glamour by giving him fiery food, that she might keep him with her, refused, and came home to his people in Sligo. And remember that the jinn, aside from coming out in the evening, they can share in certain behaviors and things of the human beings. And so what is one of those things? The food. So if you eat, you can make a choice that makes you differ than most people, or that there's not a certain share that they are having in the foods, or at least not while you're taking part of it. Some 5 miles southward of Sligo is a gloomy and tree-bordered pond, a great gathering place of waterfowl, called because of its form the Heart Lake. It is haunted by stranger things than heron, snipe, or wild duck. Out of this lake, as from the white square stone in Ben Bulben, issues an unearthly troop. Once men began to drain it, suddenly one of them raised a cry that he saw his house in flames. They turned round, and every man there saw his own cottage burning. And they hurried home to find it was but fiery glamour. To this hour, the border of the lake is shown a half-dug trench, the signet of their impiety. A little way from this lake I heard a beautiful and mournful history of fiery kidnapping. I heard it from a little old woman in a white cap who sings to herself in Gaelic and moves from one foot to the other as though she remembered the dancing of her youth. A young man going at nightfall to the house of his just married bride. Oh, but yeah, impiety. Well, again, when the Shayateen Min al Jinn lead the human beings to say that something is forbidden or lawful because of what they're doing, yeah. But the fiery faith is part of the reason why Ireland and parts of Ireland and Scotland weren't actually Christian majorities till the 1800s, despite 1500 years of Christian rule, was because. But the mixture of the fiery faith in with the Christianity is very strong there. So I'm not saying a Christian's not only worshiping God anyway, so there's a difference there. But just some people would say, oh, it's impiety to be part of to do these things or not do these things for the jinn in that way, in a way of worship. And it's like, well, if you're worshiping prophets and saints and angels and what difference does it make? A certain psychology behind something going on? Yes, but a young man going at nightfall to the house of his just married bride met in the way a jolly company, and with them his bride. They were fieries and had stolen her as a wife for the chief of their band. To him they seemed only a company of merry mortals. His bride, when she saw her old love, bade him welcome, but was most fearful lest he should eat the fiery food, and be so glamoured out of the earth into that bloodless, dim nation, wherefore she set him down to play cards with 3 of the cavalcade, and he played on, realizing nothing until he saw the chief of the band carrying his bride away in his arms. Immediately he started up, and knew that they were fieries, for slowly all that jolly company melted into shadow and night. He hurried to the house of his beloved. As he drew near, came to him the cry of the keeners. She had died some time before he came. Some noteless Gaelic poet, so Gaelic is the Scottish language, Gaelic is the Irish, had made this into a forgotten ballad, some odd verses of which my white-capped friend remembered and sang for me. Sometimes one hears of stolen people acting as good genii to the living, as in this tale, heard also close by the haunted pond of John Kirwan of Castle Hackett. The Kirwans are a family much rumoured of in peasant stories, and believed to be the descendants of a man and a spirit. They have ever been famous for beauty, and I have read that the mother of the present Lord Cloncurry was of their tribe. John Kirwan was a great horse racing man, and once landed in Liverpool with a fine horse, going racing somewhere in Middle England. That evening, as he walked by the docks, a slip of a boy came by and asked where he was stabling his horse. In such and such a place, he answered. Don't put him there, said the slip of a boy. That stable will be burnt tonight. He took his horse elsewhere, and sure enough, the stable was burnt down. And the first couple videos, I didn't make that decision to redo them because of that, but I accidentally said something instead of stabling, which is completely different. um, Next day, the boy came and asked as a reward to ride as his jockey in the coming race, and then was gone. The race came round, and at last moment the boy ran forward and mounted, saying, "If I strike him with the whip in my left hand, I will lose. But if in my right hand, bet all you are worth." 4. Said Paddy Flynn, who told me the tale, "The left arm is good for nothing." I might go on making the sign of the cross with it, and all that, come Christmas, and a banshee, or such like, would no more mind than if it was that broom. Well, the slip of a boy struck the horse with his right hand, and John Kirwan cleared the field out. When the race was over, "What can I do for you now?" said he. "Nothing but this," said the boy. "My mother has a cottage on your land. They stole me from the cradle. Be good to her, John Kirwan, and wherever your horses go, I will watch that no ill follows them. But you will never see me more." With that he made himself air and vanished. I have since heard that it was not the Kirwans, but the predecessors at Castle Hacket. The Hackets themselves, I think, were descended from a man and a spirit, and were notable for beauty. I imagine that the mother of Lord Cloncurry was descended from the Hackets. It may well be that all through these stories the name of Kirwan has taken the place of the older name. Legend mixes everything together in her cauldron. Sometimes animals are carried off, apparently drowned animals more than others. In Claremorris, Galway, Paddy Flynn told me lived a poor widow with one cow and its calf. The cow fell into the river and was washed away. There was a man thereabouts who went to a red-haired woman, for such are supposed to be wise in these things, and she told him to take the calf down to the edge of the river and hide himself and watch. He did as she had told him, and as the evening came on, the calf began to low, and after a while the cow came along the edge of the river and commenced suckling it. Then, as he had been told, he caught the cow's tail. Away they went at a great pace, across hedges and ditches, till they came to a royalty, a name for little circular ditches, commonly called raths or forts, that Ireland is covered with since pagan times. Now, pagan and heathen was an insult for all non-Christians by the Catholic Church until 1967, where they said, "Okay, we'll take monotheist off that list." So, oh yeah, and other Christians, we'll probably call it at some point. It's dwelling in pags and in heathens. That's what pagan and heathen is. It's not a different type of religion. The Romans that lived in the cities referred to the people outside the cities as pagans and heathens, even if they shared, cult of Apollo, cult of cult of Minerva. It didn't matter what the material was. You were part of whatever cult you were part of, or not part of any cult. Therein he saw walking or sitting all the people who had died out of his village in his time. A woman was sitting on the edge with a child on her knees, and she called out to him to mind what the red-haired woman had told him. And he remembered she had said, "Bleed the cow." So he stuck his knife into the cow and drew blood. That broke the spell, and he was able to turn her homeward. "Do not forget the spancel," said the woman with the child on her knees. "Take the inside one." There were 3 spancels on a bush. He took one, and the cow was driven safely home to the widow. There is hardly a valley or mountainside where folk cannot tell you of some one pillaged from amongst them. 2 or 3 miles from the Heart Lake lives an old woman who was stolen away in her youth. After 7 years she was brought home again for some reason or other, but she had no toes left. She had danced them off. Many near the white stone door in Ben have been stolen away. It is far easier to be sensible in cities than in many country places I could tell you of. When one walks on those grey roads at evening, by the scented elder bushes of the white cottages, watching the faint mountains gathering the clouds upon their heads, one all too readily discovers, beyond the thin cobweb veil, white, beyond the thin cobweb veil of the senses, those creatures, the goblins, hurrying from the white square stone door to the north, or from the Heart Lake in the south. And the untiring ones will be the next video I share.